What's up, everybody? That car guy Eddie here, and today a clutching video. Yes, we've talked about tuning, we've talked about kind of variables that you should go with that, and now we want to talk about actually putting power down to the ground. Now the cool thing about it is clutching is probably one of the best things you could do for your vehicle right off the bat. Clutching is effectively how your CVT transfers power from the motor to the drive system within itself. We all know that CVTs, you lose a lot. You lose about 15 to 20% of your horsepower when you have a CVT. So people ask all the time, they go, why would you put a CVT clutch inside of a sport UTV that you have here? And the simple thing about it is that CVTs are relatively simple, the way that they work, compared to a standard transmission. They're also relatively easy to fix. They're easy to upgrade, and if a belt does go bad, a belt change is a lot easier and a lot less costly than transmission diag on a normal transmission. So not to mention they're cheaper. They're just cheaper for the side-by-side manufacturers to put in there. And with side-by-sides approaching $25,000, $30,000, $35,000, anything we can do to keep the prices on these things down, the better. And for me, that's a CVT. Another interesting thing is that CVT does a really good job at providing a linear type of throttle response, which is really great. You know, you're not going to get any shaking, you're not going to get any jarring. That is, unless your CVT system is broken. There's just a lot of pros. And if you're rock crawling, a CVT is nice because you're always in the gear that you're supposed to be in, which is kind of cool. So, for what it's worth. Today, what we're actually reviewing, I wish I would have kept the box. I mean, I don't have a whole lot. I have this little white box right here. It's not really anything big, but this is a Dalton Clutch Kit. So the Dalton Clutch Kit, let me tell you a little bit about it. And first of all, why I went with the Dalton Clutch Kit. So there are many different clutch manufacturers out there, clutch kit manufacturers for the KRX 1000. And if you guys have a V-Force John tune and you ask V-Force John, hey, what clutch kit do you recommend? V-Force John himself will say, the Dalton Clutch Kit is probably the best clutch kit. So there you go. If you trust the guy for your tuning, you should trust him for your clutching needs. And I didn't really understand, you know, I was looking and the Dalton Clutch Kit is about $50 more expensive than most of the competition, $50 to $100 more. And I didn't really know a whole lot. And that's because I've never owned snowmobiles. Dalton is a huge name in the Polaris RZR community and in the snowmobile community at making proper clutching. And clutching is all about a combination of many things. It's about centrifugal force within the CVT. It's about the relationship between your primary clutch and your secondary clutch and how the sheaves open. And I would urge each of you to go out and watch a video. Just type in, how does a CVT transmission work? And you'll see how they work. Effectively, what ends up happening is that a CVT is two sheaves effectively, and your belt rides in between it. So we're also putting a G-Boost belt on, but basically this is what your sheaves look like here. And what ends up happening is as you go faster, the belt, actually these sheaves close and it pinches the belt like this, and the belts go up here, and that's gonna be your high gear, okay? And as you slow down, these sheaves open like this, and your belt will shift to the bottom, and that is effectively your low gear, okay? So once again, as you go faster, your clutch weights spin, it pinches this belt, and it picks the belt up like this to the top of the sheaves, high gear, and when you slow down, low gear. That's actually a really cool representation on how that worked. I didn't even practice that, but that's actually cool the way that it works. So the interesting thing about it is that with all the different variation of clutch companies, they all say the same thing. The stock weights from Kawasaki are just not good. The rollers are good, which is nice. The roller, here we go. Here we go. So the rollers are good. And effectively what ends up happening is you have your stock clutch weight and you have the roller. And when you're talking about those sheaves expanding and unexpanding, you're talking about your helix and you're talking about your spider. But effectively, what ends up happening is the roller, like this, rolls. And as you go faster and slower, the roller rolls up and down here. And this is what causes that sheave to kind of contract and expand, which is actually really nice. So you'll see where you get wear on your rollers and wear on this. The problem here is not the rollers. The problem is these weights. And it's weird because most weights don't do this. In fact, if you if you read the instructions, because we're certified technicians here at That Car Guy Eddie, if you read the instructions from Dalton, it's amazing. It says the description of this is to provide better belt grip and improve performance for oversized tires. The kit primarily is developed to recover power losses and belt performance when using oversized tires. The kit also provides better, more durable flyweight design. See notes later in the document. There's also adjustable quick adjust threaded passage. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. There are also notes in regards to modified ECUs and how that affects setup and things like that. The interesting thing is that if you read down here, they actually kind of talk smack a little bit about the Cowie, where was it? Oh, here we go. There is no. Come on. The kit will also help get to the proper RPM zone. The kit will also help with backshifting of the belt. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Gosh, I wish there's somewhere on this 6-page documents where it actually talks about how bad and how awkward these stock weights are. But you'll just have to trust me, or we could redo the video and read all this, but that's boring. But let me show you. We're visual people here, right? So let me show you. So this here is the stock weight, okay? And this is the Dalton weight, and this is just made of a higher quality material. Now, if you see, the weights are incredibly similar. This is the weight profile, okay? So when you hear about people and they talk about the profile is different, right coast off-road, okay? They say that their clutch weights have a better profile. What they mean is they mean that they're affecting the rate of shift of the belt effectively. So remember, your roller starts here and it rolls on these, okay? And if this profile is different, it's going to cause the belt, remember the sheaves, to open up differently to hold you in different RPMs and things like that. So when you hear about companies and they say, hey, look, we have a custom profile, effectively what they're doing is they're adjusting the rate of shift for your KRX. I don't have a set of right coast weights, so I don't know whether or not the rate of shift is good or not. I will tell you that they do say that they've tested a bunch of different profiles and custom weights, and that they've done through a lot of testing, and according to them, their profile is the best. But on the flip side, their profile is pretty steep compared to these here. You have another manufacturer out there, JBS, and JBS says that the flatter the profile, the better it is. Where rather than adjusting and having a custom profile where it actually moves and adjusts, that it's flatter. And he said that he did a bunch of testing with his. So take it with a grain of salt. For me, I don't know what's better. Honestly, I truly don't. I will tell you, cool thing about Right Coast Off-Road is that their weights are wider. So what that means is right here, the weight itself is wider. And what that does is when you're putting the roller on here, the wider weight is going to distribute the weight wider on your roller. So it might help with the length and the health of your rotor of your roller, because it's distributing the weight a little bit. At least that's what makes sense logically to me. So that's what I'm gonna say. Remember guys, these are all opinion videos, okay? And the opinion is an opinion of me. But what I wanna do is I wanna try to get the most correct information out there. So keep in mind, that's what the top looks like. Now, let's flip these bad boys over here and let's look at the bottom. As you can see, most of the mass that is actually in the stock one is down here. It's at the bottom. See how it's very well flared and all the weight's at the top. The Dalton weight is a lot thicker on the bottom. You can see it in there. And then they're adjustable. So what I mean by adjustable is you feed different gram weights down into here depending on your size of tire. And the point of that is, the point of all of this is because when this is on the clutch, okay, and you have your roller here, you have different weight down here towards the bottom. And as this spins, you have centrifugal force, and the weight at the bottom determines how fast this opens up. And once this opens up, remember, it opens your sheaves and you get to high gear, okay? So that's very important when you talk about high gear and how clutch weights work and the weights and everything like that. Now, let me talk to you a little bit about not just this, because this is an important part of the kit, and I think that everybody's kit is pretty similar when it comes to the weights. I really do. We had a Dynajet kit, and same type of idea, really high quality. It's just they use magnets. So you would put the magnets down here, and the further you put the magnets down, the more weight would be at the bottom, which means the faster you have to spin the RPMs to get those things to lift up. Because remember, if your weight is down here and you're spinning fast, it takes more RPMs to get that thing open to the higher sheaves. It's called shift phasing. Another thing that you can Google on the internet. The reason I went with the Dalton kit though, a couple of things it includes, which most kits don't include. One of them is thrust washers. So when this goes into the clutch, you actually have thrust washers here that are kind of a pain in the butt to put on. And you'll see that way they're more the same size. But what the thrust washers do is it allows this to pivot, because remember, as you speed up, as you slow down, as you speed up, as you slow down, and you get this going up and down. And if you don't have thrust washers in there, what could possibly happen with the stock one is you're going to get wear, and you can already see wear on these things. You know, you can already see wear from it opening and shutting. So the idea here is that if you have the thrust washers, you're going to protect against that, and ultimately this could bind. And if this binds and gets stuck down and it doesn't open, you're not going to shift. So that's kind of a cool thing that Dalton included, was it included these thrust washers. Another thing they included was they included different weights, and these are what the weights look like. I'll show you here. They're just different length threaded bolts that you thread down into it. You use an Allen key and you thread down. And depending on your tire size and what you do, there are many different ways to set up your clutch and things like that. Springs. Another really cool thing about the Dalton kit is it came with springs. Now, this is another controversial topic because if you read a lot, some people say, hey, you don't need springs. Some people say you need springs. Once again, I go back to the old tried and true community. I go back to the snowmobile community. People have been running springs and CVT clutches and snowmobiles for 35 years. And every single one of them say that if you want proper backshifting, you need to adjust your springs, okay? And the reason why, this is the stock one here. This is the one that came with the Dalton kit. And part of the reason why this is super important, okay, is let's go back to the sheave, right? So the thing that actually causes you to go to the low gear is the spring. So the spring is effectively here, like that, right? And then you have your belt in the middle. And as you go faster and those weights spin up, this opens, right? And the bottom, and your belt spins to the top and you go into your high gear. Well, what backshifting is when the vehicle senses torque, or when your CVT senses torque, that it needs torque, that it wheel resistance effectively. So this can happen from larger tires or hitting a hill or anything like that. What ends up happening is that if you're at a high RPM, your belt is at the very top because you're at a high RPM. Wow, you're spinning, and then you hit a hill. Now, if you were in a car with a stick shift, you would downshift, right? You would throw it to a lower gear and you would downshift. The CVT doesn't know how to do that because the weight setup from the factory is not designed to do that. When you're talking about weights from the factory, they have to find a good mix between people who want to take it to the dune and people who want to rock crawl with it. And frankly, this thing is more set up to be rock crawling. It's geared low, effectively. So what happens is you hit a hill and you're at high RPMs and you're doing 65 miles an hour, your belt stays at the top. And your RPMs, whoa, you slowly bog the engine down. And then as you slowly bog the engine down, the belt falls on, and you finally get into that gear where you want to be, but now your RPMs are low, and then your KRX can't climb, okay? You see how that works? KRX can't climb. So by adding the proper spring for backshifting, what ends up happening is that the tension within this is a lot harder, so that you can keep your RPMs up, and when it senses the hill, it senses the rock or anything like that, what will happen is it will force this open sooner, and it will get you to your lower gear faster. And getting to the proper gear when you're climbing a hill or when you're doing anything, whether you're running on the dunes or anything like that, is super important. So that's why I bought this kit, is because it comes with all of that. It comes with the springs, it comes with the weights, it comes with all that stuff. So we are one step away from finishing this thing. I will tell you, any kit that you get, it takes snap rings to take the things off, so make sure you have snap ring tool, super important. This is like the #1 tool that you need. Most people will have everything else. We had to go get this, so it's super important. Other than that, I want to thank you guys for watching the video. It's really important to see kind of what we do here at That Car Guy Eddie here. And definitely like and subscribe. Drop a link down below. Tell me what weight you went with and why you went with it. There's no wrong answer because the stock weights that are in the KRX suck. So anything that you do should be good. Thanks for watching and ride hard.